All right, congratulations, Blue Jays. Woo, that was awesome. I was so glad to see that. I got all teary-eyed at the end there when they finally got the third out, got that division win, seeing George Springer losing it there, hearing Schneider talk. Just so good, so good, so good. Anyways, British Columbia this week. And we got a major storm coming on Tuesday. We've been back into the storm pattern, Pacific storm pattern. This may be the strongest one we've seen yet up the BC coast. We'll have to have a look here at what the various impacts are. The tail end of the last storm is kind of pulling on through right now and bringing rainfall warnings to certain locations along the coast as well. So let's get on with the show and talk about some of the details as we go. Let's go already, Joe. There it is. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. Joey Only, Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel. Maybe become a channel member if you want to support me further here. Join the Patreon or, great. Just leave a comment. If anything else, that helps the algorithms. Okay, showtime. All right, here's looking at the last 2 full days on the British Columbia coast. You can see that flow really just coming up Vancouver Island again and again and again. Made for pretty crappy conditions here in the Caribou. You can see our next low spinning off in Alaska there. It's more or less... stationary at this point there, this upper level low pattern. It's really resembling, the pattern we've been seeing for the much of the last, 15 months or something like that in British Columbia, 14 months, something like that. And this upper level low pattern, it's going to be producing a very strong storm off the BC coast this week. Let's have a look at how. The big story in British Columbia today, rain at heavy expected on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Totals near 100 millimeters overnight tonight. Northern sections of Vancouver Island. A strong Pacific funnel system will bring heavy rain to the region. Rain will ease by overnight tonight. And in southern British Columbia, special air quality statement. We can have a quick look at that. We've had a wildfire going on in Peachland that keeps continuing to defy late season expectations. So we do have air quality advisories there for Arrow Lakes, Slocan, New Denver, Nakusp, Farquhar, Boundary, Grand Forks, Midway, Greenwood, Central Okanagan, Kelowna, Lake Country, West Kelowna, Peachland, whatever, East Kootenay, Elk Valley, North Okanagan, Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay, all areas where special air quality statements are in effect today. We also have some of that in northern Alberta where some wildfires continue to burn a little bit, and we continue to have burning in the Northwest Territories. So as you see, there will be some rainfall coming to Peachland later on in the episode here. We'll show you that, but just have a look right now. Fire activity has been going on again today. There's been evacuations this last bunch of days, and it sort of defies what we'd hope to see at this time of year in Peachland. Here's our latest up-to-date satellite imagery showing the last 24 hours of activity. And as you can see, there has been some fresh and renewed activity up there on the hills for whatever reason. So there's not been the rainfall coming into the southern part of British Columbia. The ridging has kept them pretty warm there. It's been a tale of two provinces, while the Caribou and North has been largely crappy. Well, hopefully the southern track, the southern location of the storm that's coming midweek will help bring a bit of rain into this region and help settle things down, at least for a little while, cool things off, or buy more time until another rainy system can kind of make its way on in. So as you can see, the fire danger is pretty high still in the Okanagan and places like that in southern British Columbia. They just have not had that rain. They've had healthy ridging there that's really kept them warm, kept them in the warmer. So we're talking about fire K5219 or 2. That's the detail today. 310 hectares at last report, maybe bigger with some of that activity. Of course, we don't know exactly what's going on with that activity and why it's happening. From a distance, we can kind of assume, of course, the weather conditions are playing a role, but we don't know if there's burning operations or whatever going on. So we don't want to look at those firms maps from outer space there and try to assume too much, but we can see there has been some fire activity. That means the trees are receptive to fire still yet today. We can see where some of that evacuation is on this fire, right? So right now it's still spreaded or anticipated to spread 310 hectares. Its expected cause is human caused. Okay, so wildfire investigations take time; they can be complex, but this is probably human caused. We're going to find out who and why. Probably, hopefully, figure out what the deal is. So there is evacuation alerts for Peachland still right now. So we have some wildfire evacuation orders partially downgraded. We have some rescinded. We have a new one that's issued, and then we have expanded for an area near Peachland. So if you're in the Peachland area, I'm not the place to find out evacuation information. I'm just showing you that there is evacuations. I hope that if you're in the region, you know to check your local sources, your local government. So on Saturday, September 27th, there is overcast, limited its severity of fire behavior through the day, keeping it at rank 2. So cooler skies, basically, the sun not breaking on through. Pockets of rank 3 maybe at times. A low vigorous surface fire, slow rate of spread. Portions of moderately vigorous surface fire, maybe the odd candling event where wind and slope aligned. Overnight fire behavior decreased, of course. Now, with the potential for strong southwest winds again today, there's been an increase in fire behavior as we saw on the map, especially if we start seeing sunny conditions. So crews and heavy equipment are prioritizing 100-foot push in from the fire's edge. Heavy equipment is working along the northwest corner. Today, crews will be looking to conduct a 54-hectare planned ignition. So there you go. That's probably what some of that we are seeing on the heat detector is, some of that ignition. On the southeast flank, that kind of lines up with what we were seeing on firms. This will be done by hand ignitions and only continue if the site conditions allow. So we don't know for sure that's what we're seeing, but there's a chance that the winds are working in their favor. There's only 2 firefighter personnel in the incident. There's 5 helicopters, heavy equipment, and structure protection. All right, we're going to look at the upper level projections there for what's the jet stream doing this week. That's the weather delivery system here. The colors indicate wind speed, not necessarily precipitation, but the transport system of precipitation pretty much is generally that jet stream. So just so you understand that the two are connected together. Over here we have Hurricane Humberto showing up there. Let's have a playthrough on the animation, see what happens this week. Basically what's going to happen is the crappy weather is going to continue for BC. There's some crappy weather there, and now we come into Tuesday. Big time crappy weather. There's that storm. Boom, off the coast. Big time crappy weather. Nice continuous crappy weather. Nice continuous crappy weather for much of the next week. Although there is some suggestion that some ridging at the end of it may give us a reprieve from this wet coastal condition. Again, you can see Hurricane Humberto. It tugs out to sea with it. Our wonderful number 9 could be Hurricane Imelda if it reaches hurricane status. I don't know if it has yet. We could look at that quickly. And then you can see this nice ridging keeping most of the continent. Pretty nice weather, really. And then the sort of trough out here is what helps to pull off those 2 hurricanes. One hurricane at least and one tropical storm at the end. There's some ridging at the end of our forecast period. That's the 6th of October. That ridging may change our weather a little bit, but for the meantime, no. Crappy. There we go. Crappy. The crappy. You can see that's crappy as well. That looks crappy. That's definitely cool. We're on the cool side of the jet stream, and then we get a little bit warm up, but that's still crappy. So crappy weather for the next bunch of days, next week and more. Well, here's the big picture temperature-wise, having a look at our autumn season. You can see British Columbia, much in the cool there. Alberta looking pretty nice. Saskatchewan looking very warm in southern Saskatchewan, especially Manitoba, northern Ontario looking pretty nice. Much of the eastern half of the country looking nice. Up the Midwest United States, very, very warm into the 30s there and whatnot. That's our projections, and we'll just watch what that does for the next little while. Again, we see the prairies very warm, Ontario pretty warm, and that continues. Look at that. Some of those warm temperatures even lingering through the night in Alberta. And then you can see basically our storms off the BC coast here next week. You can see them muddying up the temperatures right there. You can see them pulling the warm in, drawing the cool down. BC staying in some cooler temperatures. Not that bad for a lot of southern BC this week. As we get later in the week, that storm is going to help to draw some warmer air up to us. At some point, though, we're going to see cool air start to break out. There you go. Freezing temperatures at night, maybe next Saturday. That's a week out. So, let's not take that too seriously, but that just kind of gives us an idea that we may see some cooler temperatures at the end of this week into the mountains, into the high country and whatnot. That may even reach down into the Rockies in the United States side. So that's kind of what we're looking at, though. Still fairly warm across Canada coming into October. Here we are, October 7th. October 8th, that still looks pretty warm for BC. That may be the ridging that we saw now showing up in the temperature scan pattern. So we saw that ridging in our jet stream model. Now we're looking at our temperature model, and we're seeing a corresponding warm up with that temperature. The temperature warming up corresponding to the jet stream ridging up and allowing warm weather up and into us. So very warm across the continent still if we're looking at October 8th and where temperatures should be. That's quite warm still yet in many, many places. So you can see this low moving into the province Province right now over the last 24 hours, bringing a lot of rain into northern BC. Had raining a lot here in Wells throughout the day. There's no radar available right now in the Caribou. There's for some reason on radar scope at least. It's down. I see our big low churning off in the Gulf of Alaska out there. You can see some moisture available to help make our next storm. That's going to get drawn in down to here, and it's going to become a new sort of storm on its own, or this one's going to kind of morph into this sort of secondary storm that'll be really picking up in strength by Tuesday. So we'll have a look now at where modeling is suggesting. Okay, so that heavy rain is hitting up the northern coast of Vancouver Island tonight as it spills up over towards the Chilcotin. Maybe a little bit of snowfall on the big mountains there, especially some of that rainfall, though it's really going to be more of a rainfall event, maybe just a few flurries. If you want to look for snowfall, you have to actually go up north of where, go up to the Rocky Mountains there, northern Rocky Mountains. Going to see rainfall basically on a band from the Peace down to Burns Lake. Watch that move its way inland as that low develops overnight tonight. So as Monday morning starts, going to have some good rainfall in places like Vancouver, Victoria probably seeing some. Definitely murky skies in much of the Caribou, I would expect. And maybe a little bit of rainfall in the Caribou Mountains here. Yeah, totally. So Monday not looking very good for outdoor work here in the Caribou. Just another rainy day. It's been raining in the Caribou Mountains a lot the last bunch of days. We've been really come into a wet pattern here. Exciting, very exciting amount of rain up and down that coast there Monday late. So this low is kind of going through. It's drawing all this moisture in behind. And you think that's the story? No, here's the story. Already at 980 millibars. Well, where did that come from? It really just kind of pulled itself together over that 24-hour period. So you can see how our upper level low is sitting up here. This low is pulling up into the province. It's kind of leaving this bit of a wake in behind, drawing this stuff in behind as it rides on the counterclockwise motion of our larger low. And what happens is it more or less creates its new low and draws this one into it there. See, they kind of warble around and then boom. So it's not exactly the same storm as this one was up here. It's really its own storm. You come look at Tuesday night, it starts to strengthen and intensify. Thunderstorms down that south flank of it, up the frontal section of that storm. Cool air coming in behind there. So that's the cold front bringing all that rainfall. Seeing it intensify to 977 low now. That's a good one. That's a very strong low out basically just off the coast of Hattagua is where it's centered, 978. So it's more or less hit its peak by that point. Now comes the strong winds up the coast on Tuesday afternoon. You can see that heavy rainfall starting to pick up. Maybe a few flashes of lightning in the eastern sections of BC. I'm not expecting much on that, but it's not out of the question. Definitely possible to see some lightning in this large low. It's just churning all Tuesday out there. Large mid-latitude cyclone going to make for good wind off the coast, good rainfall, maybe some snow in the mountains there, and that's going to really work its way through on Wednesday. It's going to try to come ashore here as best it can now, but look at that. That's a beast. That's a beauty. Strong winds, so expect there'll be wind warnings in coastal British Columbia. Midweek, expect there'll be some rainfall warnings as this moves on in. Could produce a little bit of precip that falls as snowfall in some locations, high locations and whatnot. Certainly as you go far north, we could see a little band of precip in the afternoon there Wednesday that could fall as a little bit of snow there in higher country. Big time rainfall slamming in as this low really finally pushes ashore on Wednesday afternoon. It's been a couple days out there getting its act together, spinning around, being angry, and now here it comes into the province. So Wednesday evening, now we're seeing that rainfall really pick up as it tries to make its way into the Caribou interior, I should say, southern interior. We're really hoping that some of this lands in Peachland. Finally, put that story down to bed. If this model holds true, ECMWF, and it's one of our best ones, it should deliver some rainfall into that area. We are hoping to see that. Certainly, Vancouver Island going to be taking a lot of rainfall this week. Certainly, up the coast mountains going to be taking a lot of rainfall. I don't expect much to fall as snow. I don't expect to see snow in the Connector or Okanagan highways or whatever, or up Rogers Pass much. No, I don't think that that's really the deal. I think it's being kept too warm because of how these lows have drawn Omicron, the warmth up from the south. So as you can see, even Thursday late afternoon, 14s in Kelowna and 10 in Kamloops, whatever, as you come into the nighttime. Still fairly warm temperatures, right? Fairly warm temperatures, even though we're into October by that point. That's right. The second Thursday is already the second day of October. Now we go to the 3rd of October, Friday. Where are we going this week? New low. Well, that's kind of the old low just pulling itself back together or whatever, so we had this low that was there, this new thing happened and kind of stole from it, and then it just sort of redeveloped in the wake of that one. We have this whole other show going on Friday, yet another slamming coming on in, this time maybe a little bit more snowfall in northern BC, but definitely up the coast we're going to have more rainfall warnings, more wind warnings, more special weather statements. Going to be a stormy fall week in British Columbia. A classic week in BC. Gotta love it. That low on Friday is expected to come more into the northern part of the province. That might help bring some precip into the piece again. And as you can see, Caribou Mountains, we're probably gonna get a fair bit of this throughout the week. That's the week as it's going. We'll kind of stop there and we'll reassess in each day now coming forward as to what's going to happen. So join me again tomorrow when we'll take more specific looks at things like Tuesday, and we'll start looking at rainfall totals. Is there going to be snowfall totals? Is there going to be this? Is there going to be that? We'll start looking at this more closely on Monday. So be sure to join me here. Hit like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.